Welcome to the Yellow Jacket Experience. I'm your host, Seth Dussault, and today we have a special guest joining as we continue to celebrate the 40th anniversary of the Northeast 10 Conference. Three-time NE10 Player of the Year, three-time All-American, AIC Hall of Famer, and a three-time NBA Champion. Not a bad resume. Mario Elie, class of 1985, joining us at Mario. Thanks for being here. This is really awesome to get to talk to you.
Well, thank you guys for having me.
Really appreciate it. And I want to go back to the beginning. You grew up in the 60s and 70s, Manhattan, New York City. You got to see a lot of legends of sports in your time, like Dr. J, Elvin Hayes, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, guys like Reggie Jackson, Jean Rattel. Who were some of the people who were big influences on you when you were growing up, both in sports and maybe as well outside of sports?
Well, I mean, sports and outside of sports is my dad and my brother. Maurice Pascal and Clark Elie, both were deceased right now. But my basketball idols were Magic Johnson, Sidney Moncrief, and Joe Dumars. I like those players because I was a player that liked doing a bunch of things. Magic was a rebounder, assist guy, 6'9", did a lot of things. Moncrief, 6'4", athletic, was defensive player of the year a lot of times, who were always putting up triple doubles. And Joe Dumars was a guy I really liked because he would guard Jordan, one of the best defenders in the league. And I like guys who did multiple things on the floor. So that's why I chose those guys.
Yeah, fits exactly the same kind of thing. My favorite player, and we'll get to talk to him about him in a little bit, is Tim Duncan. So same kind of player. But we'll get there when we get there. You went to Power Memorial. It's a historic school, obviously no longer in existence, unfortunately, but it developed a lot of phenomenal athletes and phenomenal people. Sort of incredible to think that somebody like you got cut from the team as a freshman. Eventually, though, you became one of the finest players the program ever had. How did that experience there shape you as an athlete and as a person?
Well, I remember, I'm glad you brought that up. I remember getting cut from my freshman year. And my mom and dad really worked hard. So they really didn't get to see me watch me play. So my sister was sort of my pseudo coach. So I had came home after getting cut my freshman year to the house, and I was crying like a little baby. And my sister just read me the riot act and said, "Stop acting like a a B or a P, and strap them up." And I never forgot that. I never forgot that. Coming from my sister, who was my biggest supporter. And from then on, I said I would not ever feel like that again. And it's funny that summer I grew 3 inches and made the sophomore team the next year. We went 25-0, and you sort of know the rest of the story. So I thank my sister Nancy Elie for getting in my butt and say, "Yo, stop acting like a little wimp and man up." So that was a very critical part of my growth, coming from my sister, coming from my big sister.
There's nothing quite like a sister that gets you motivated. But you had yet another experience. The end of your high school career, you certainly were good enough to play Division I ball, but never got that opportunity. How did you end up connecting with AIC and coming to Springfield?
It's funny you say that, and I'm a father of 3 kids. So I'm on my sons about this. I was never a kid who really loved school. I know I had to do it, to get by and be eligible. Mm-hmm. But I kind of wish if I can turn it back, I needed to love school. Didn't really know how to prepare for a SAT. Never knew nothing about that. Nobody really never prepared me or told me I can sort of study for that. So I was a kid that just wanted to barely get by in school and just be eligible to play. And then I was a late bloomer also. Everything sort of happened to me my senior year. Got a chance to play with the great AAU team, Riverside Church. Played with Chris Mullen, St. John's, Jerry Reynolds, LSU. Bushler went to Connecticut. You got all guys going to major schools. And I was getting letters from these schools. But they were telling me I had to sit out a year. I'm a guy who didn't like school. I wanted to go somewhere and play 4 years and get out. So I was sort of in a flux that summer. I'm like, where am I going to go? Am I going to sit out a year? Do I want to do that? So 2 weeks before, check in for school, I really didn't have nothing. And my mom and dad were like, dude, you need to make a decision. What are you going to do? And Coach Jim Powell, a fellow New Yorker, kept that scholarship for me, and it was a last-minute decision 2 weeks before school. I said, I got to do something. I don't want to go to junior college. I don't want to go to prep school. I said, let me go ahead and take this scholarship and see where it takes me.
Well, it took you to the home of the birthplace of basketball, and it took you to an opportunity to win some conference titles. You were Rookie of the Year, 3-time NE10 Player of the Year. Couple heartbreaking losses as a junior. Your team lost in, I think it was a regional semifinal in overtime to Sacred Heart. How did those first 3 years prepare you for that magical 1985 season when the team won the regional championship for the first time?
Well, I was a young man going through a lot at the time. My freshman year, I felt it was easy in Division II. My first game was against Sacred Heart. Everybody talking about them. I think I had 28 that game.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt I was going to be fine. But what really pissed me off is watching my friends on TV every week playing for Syracuse, playing for St. John's, not taking none from AIC, eating bag lunches on the buses, wearing Chuck Taylors, and seeing my friends with their orange Nikes with Syracuse on them, seeing Chris Mullen sending me St. John's gear. I remember my sophomore year, St. John's was playing North Carolina at the Springfield Civic Center. Chris got me tickets. He was going against the great Michael Jordan. I can remember it like yesterday. And just talking to him, he said, man, you should be a Division I player. I was like, hey, I just got to make the best of my situation. I put myself in this situation, so I'm going to make the best of it. But just, great experiences. And that's sort of what drove me to get me to the places. I like you mentioned, 3-time champion, making it to the NBA. So those are all things that motivate me. The disappointment really put a big, big chip on my shoulder. And that's why I carried that chip all the way to the NBA.
Now, obviously, your coach had a significant influence on you. You mentioned Coach Powell. Can you think of other folks, professors, staff members, anybody that had a positive impact on you while you were here at AIC?
I just had great teammates. Craig Ware, Vincent Williams, Tony Thomas, Bob Schaefer, Bobby Marcotte. All those guys are a big part of my journey. Mike Thomas, John Williams, all these guys were a big part. I still keep in contact with Craig Ware, is like one of my best friends. Talked to him the other day. Even a nemesis, Roger Younger from Sacred Heart. He's from New York. Great player. Still keep in contact with him. We talk about our Division II games. And it's funny, I went to New York, I guess it was last year or 2 years ago, and St. John's was playing Sacred Heart. Sacred Heart got moved up to Division I. I'm seeing a lot of teams that I played against in the Northeast, Quinnipiac, Central Connecticut. It's good to see those schools move up Division I, and I'm glad I got a chance to play against all those guys.
Now, you did get drafted coming out of AIC. Milwaukee picked you, I think it was 7th round. What was it like when you got that phone call from that NBA team that said, hey, we want you?
And this is another problem going to Division II. Didn't really know how to prepare, I just remember hanging out in the park in New York with my buddies, and my mom, walks to the park and said, hey, you got drafted. I'm like, really? She said, I'm like, what round? She said 7th. I'm like, wow. And when I look at history and when I speak to people, I said I was a 7th round pick. I was the 160th pick out of 162. So I was almost at the end of the totem pole getting picked. And it was a very humbling experience going to training camp, because I go from playing the power forward at AIC to being the second shortest guy in training camp, having to play a power forward in college. And Don Nelson said, here, you're playing point guard for your squad. So it was just a very eye-opening experience. And obviously I wasn't ready. That's probably the only time in my life I was happy to get cut, because we were back in those days, it was 2 3-hour practices a day. I remember after the first day, I couldn't even feel my legs. I couldn't even really go to sleep because I was in so much pain. never really endured the conditioning in the NBA. You know, first day of training camp in the summer with Milwaukee, I'm like dying. I'm in the pool by myself at 11 at night trying to get the soreness out. It was just crazy just getting ready for practices every day for me because I never was used to this type of hard grind, you know. So it was eye-opening.
Now, your path involves going to Ireland, going to Argentina, going to Portugal, playing minor pro basketball, different leagues. How did all of the experiences you had previously, high school and college, help you stick with it and develop you as a person who could go through a path like that to get to the NBA?
My mom always had the belief. I remember when I graduated college, you know, I was sort of in a quandary after getting cut by the Bucks. Then my dad all of a sudden passed away from a heart attack, you know. So I remember my mom telling me that my dad believed I was going to make it to the league one day. And that was another just extra chip I put on my shoulder. And I said, let me go around, you know, let me travel the world, get paid for something I love to do, and improve my game. And that was my mindset. You know, Ireland was the first stop. Had just an amazing time over there. Just great people. You know, not the level of basketball, even though it was professional, but not the level of basketball. I was getting paid. I was having fun, you know, getting to see the city, Dublin, going up all over the country, Ireland, then jet to Argentina, playing down there, knowing all the history I know now. I remember Andres Nocioni and Carlos Delfino remember me playing down there. It's interesting. He said, Mary, I remember you playing near my neighborhood. So it was pretty good being noticed there. Then went to Portugal, which I enjoyed Portugal so much. I stayed there 2 years. Had a great time. I was in a small farm town in northern Portugal called Orvar. Had maybe 2 street lights.
Wow.
And here's a guy growing up in New York with 8 million people, going over to Portugal where there's only 2 street lights. The town closed at 9 o'clock. But the people were just so amazing. We would sell out every game. After the game, I would go to the restaurant and the people at the restaurant would feed me, give me drink. It was just so much fun in Ovar, man. I'm like, I mean, how did I spend 2 years over there in a town that had 2 street lights? I mean, I just had a great time over there, and it was an amazing experience, man. It was an amazing experience. I got to see so much of the world just playing in South America and in Europe. I mean, it was an amazing experience. So when I felt I was ready to give the NBA shot, you know, I said, let me try the CBA. You know, and I got connected with Gerald Oliver and the Albany Patroons. He didn't even know me from Adam. There's a friend of mine, Sam Worthen, who went to Marquette, who knew him. He said, you need to take a chance on this young man. He's a good player. And Gerald Oliver didn't really want to take a chance on me, but they put me on the team. And the guy that was playing before me, Danny Pearson, went to Jacksonville University. And he got hurt. And Gerald said, okay, let's throw this guy Elie in the lineup. Next thing you know, I have 16-11 the first game. And I started ever since. So it's just a crazy journey. I had a lot of ups and downs, but I stayed the course.
A lot of people telling you no, and you just kept saying yes until they didn't have a choice but to agree with you. And you finally make it to the NBA. You play 3 games with Philly in late 1990. You end up at Golden State and then Portland. You finally land with the Rockets. Was there a particular point in those first couple of years in the NBA where it hit you that, like, you've made it, that all those no's were finally going to turn into the yes, that dream is coming true, I'm a guy playing in the NBA?
Let me just tell you a quick story about my Philly experience. That had a lot to do with me making the NBA. I was there with Barkley, Hornets, was it Hornacek? No. Barkley, Hersey, Hawkins. That's when Barkley, I think, was trying to get out of Philly. And I think in the following year, I think he went to Phoenix, if I'm not mistaken. But I remember getting called up by Philly, go meet Gene Shue during Christmas break. And they're on a road trip. It's a West Coast road trip Philly's on. So they give me my plane ticket in Philly. Said, Mario, you go fly from Philly to Atlanta to Phoenix to meet the team. So I'm just jacked up. I mean, I'm just so fired up. First time flying first class. I'm like, oh, this is pretty neat. So I get to Atlanta, and it's a big, big fog in Atlanta, and I'm not able to fly out.
Oh, no.
So I'm going nuts. I'm like, what is the coach going to think? I can't make it to the game, but it's not my fault. And I called the hotel where the team was staying at. And the funniest thing, I don't know how he answered the phone. And Charles Barkley answered the freaking phone.
Charles, of all the people.
Of all the people, Charles is answering the damn phone.
Wow.
I'm like, Charles, I said, this is Barkley? He said, yeah, this is Charles Barkley. I said, Charles, I'm a new player on the team. My flight won't get in because I'm fogged in Atlanta. Can you? He said, don't worry about it, man. Just fly in the morning. I'll tell Coach Lynham you be in. I'm like, man, I got to talk to the great Charles Barkley, man. I'm like, I was freaking out that night. I didn't even sleep that night. I'm like, then I get to Phoenix that morning, go right to shoot around, and Barkley's the first guy that greets me. I mean, Manu Bowles on the team, Jason Williams. So I thought that was pretty neat, man. My first NBA experience, I'm talking to one of the 50 greatest, and ends up being my teammate down the line, who is one of the best guys you ever want to be around. And the last part of this story is when I got to practice with those guys, I was killing the backups. My confidence was so high at that point. I think we played, the Lakers were lost. Then I think we went up to Seattle, and we were getting our butts kicked up there. Jim Lynham throws me in. So that at the end of the game of the blowout, and I get a quick 6 points. And I'm really feeling myself. And Jimmy Lynham, we go to Utah the next trip. And Jimmy Lynham said, after the shooter, I said, Mario, I like what I saw from you in Seattle. I'm going to play you 20, 25 minutes tonight. So be ready to go. I'm so excited. Phone rings around 4 o'clock. Philly makes a trade, a 2-for-1 trade. And I'm involved in the trade. So I get cut that day.
Wow.
But my confidence is just super high. So George Carr's my coach my second year in the CBA. So I get called back to Albany. And George doesn't start me for my first 2 games back. So I come off the bench with 30 and 35 or 37 off the bench. And I knew by then it's just a matter of time before somebody calls me back up. And 3 weeks later, Marshallonis goes down in Golden State. I get a call from Golden State. I fly to Denver that day and have them play that night. Don Nelson brings me in his room. It's one of them Eminem experiences. You got 1 shot. He said, I'm going to give you 25 minutes tonight. You need to show me what you got. And I had 14-11 that night. And the rest is history. Fly back to the Bay Area. Don Nelson said, you're a Warrior this year and the next year. Sign this deal. And that's how it all began, man. It was a crazy ride, man. It was a crazy ride.
That's absolutely unbelievable. Now you ended up in Portland, as we mentioned, and then you get to Houston. And in 1994, the Houston Rockets, with you on the team, incredible group of guys. They beat the Knicks in a 7-game finals. You win an NBA championship. Was there a point in the season where it hit you that, hey, this team could be something special? And what was it like lifting that trophy at the end?
Well, during training camp, we felt really good. And it's funny you say that because I played with Portland the year before I came to Houston. And I drove from Portland to Seattle to see that Rocket Game 7 against the Sonics. And I'm like, man, this Rocket team is good and this Sonic team is good. And then that summer, I go to the Bay Area to go visit a couple of my friends. And as soon as I get back to Portland, my phone rings. They say, hey, Mario, you've been traded. I'm like, okay, where? They said to Houston. I'm like, whoa, I'm going to go play with the great Hakeem Olajuwon? You talking about a guy who was fired up. And got to training camp. Me and Vernon were already good friends because we competed each other, talking mess to each other. But, man, a young Sam Cassell, an emerging Robert Horry, And we got out the gate 15-0 that year. And I think we started the season maybe 22-3. And I think everybody felt really, really special about that squad. And you were right. We ended up winning that year. I mean, we played Portland the first round of that series. We choked against Phoenix our first 2 games at home with 20-point leads. But the character of that team coming back and winning in 7 games, then really mopping up Utah in the Western Conference Finals. Probably the greatest tandem. Everybody going to talk about Wade and LeBron. I mean, ain't no tandem greater than Malone and Stockton. Numbers-wise, durability-wise, and staying with one team their whole career. Them guys were amazing. And having to beat them. And then you mentioned 2 of the best teams, probably 2 of the best defensive teams in NBA history, with Ewan on one end and Olajuwon on one end. It was just like a backyard brawl every game. It was physical, nasty, will of attrition. And we outlasted them in 7 games, you know. That game 6 was big. That Olajuwon block on Starks, I think that momentum really carried over to game 7. And I just remember everybody ordered their limos in game 7 because we knew we were going to win. And like you mentioned, a Division II player, 160 pick in the draft, having a chance to lift a gold trophy, not just 1, but 3 times. But that first one was sweet. I was so happy for Hakeem Olajuwon, all he'd been through with that city, his college and his NBA. Just failures not to bring the team, not to bring the city a championship. But I was just happy for him. And looking at the championship video, seeing him sit down and reflect with the confetti coming on him and just having a moment to himself, that was a special moment for me, being a teammate of that guy and how great he was and how grateful he was for that moment. With all this man's accomplishment, to see him sit down and just soak it all in, that was a special moment for me. This is one of the 50 greatest players. And to me, just watch him be humbled by what he just accomplished, that says a lot about that man.
And you guys did it again the following year, too. And 1995, I think, is sort of probably your magnum opus as a player. Everyone knows the kiss of death, of course, the shot in Game 7 in the second round. But people probably don't even realize, in the finals, you had to guard Shaq. You played a really great Magic team, and you were the best shooter in the final. Shot 65%, helped to get the team to a sweep of the Magic. How did that whole run develop for you and for the team to have that fantastic playoff that you had?
As an athlete, you go through things, and as a team, you go through things. And, if you watch the championship video, I can watch our championship video 100 times. And Kenny Smith said it best. We got fat cat-itis. We came out that next year, we're full of ourselves. I wasn't used to getting all that attention. A lot of guys, a lot of role players were getting a lot of attention, and we weren't focusing on the task at hand, and that's defending our title. So it was a rough, rocky year. Dream got banged up that year. He missed a lot of time that year. And then we made the big trade, Otis for Clyde Drexler. I was one of the guys not really happy with the trade because we won it with Otis the year before. And we didn't know if Clyde was hungry enough, if he wanted to compete for a championship. But I tell you what, when Clyde got here, and Dream sort of missed the last 18, 20 games of that season. We went 500 the rest of the year. But if it wasn't for Clyde Drexler, we might have been the lowest seed. He came in, man, put on a show. I remember him we played the Clippers. He had a big 40-something point game. And I said to myself, man, if he plays like that, and with Olajuwon, I don't know if any tandem can match up with our tandem. And that's how we felt. I remember us being the 6th seed with no home court. 2 teams won 60 games. 1 team won 58, the other won 59. If you go look at NBA history, we had the hardest road out of any NBA Finals team in NBA history. I think the Bulls, we were at 72%. I think one of the Bulls team was at 68%. So that's pretty damn impressive. Going in the first round, Vernon Maxwell leaves the team in the middle of the Utah series in the first round. So we go home elimination game. and I tell everybody, watch the video. It says a lot. And Clyde said, the pressure, if we would have win, everybody gonna blame me. So that game 4 with our backs against the wall, Clyde gets 40. We go back to Utah. We're down late in the game, and Olajuwon comes in the huddle with 7 minutes left in the game. Said, "Fellas, we got to make our move now." We did. We made our move. Came back, beat them, beat a 60-win team. Next round, man, KJ, Marley, and the great Sir Charles, they jump on us quick that series. Down 3-1. Game 5, Clyde's at the hotel in Phoenix with an IV. We don't know if he's going to play or not. We in an elimination game. So he comes in 30 minutes before the game while we're meeting, looking like he was looking terrible. I'm like, how is this dude going to play? But his presence, just trying, really lifted the team. We go on winning that game in overtime, and I remember Charles Barkley choking up. All he had to do was make one free throw down the stretch. He missed both of them. So we went and beat them in overtime. You know, our confidence is super high. Come back home, we smack them. And then, game 7 was my moment, I just remember Kevin Johnson letting Kenny Smith and Sam Cassell have it the whole game. And felt bad. I didn't feel bad for him, but, he missed a key free throw, that would have put them up 1. So didn't know what Phoenix was going to do. Obviously, we were going to hold for the last shot. But thank God for Danny Ainge because he was guarding me. So he decided to leave me and go double in the backcourt to try to rush us. So when you're playing with 2 of the top 50 greatest players, they're not leaving Clyde and Dream. So Kenny was smart enough to find Robert, and Marley wasn't leaving Clyde, and Shays wasn't leaving Dream. So I set up in the deep corner in front of our bench. So Robert threw a skip pass, and Danny Shade had the decision to make. Let me shoot or leave Olajuwon. He was not leaving Olajuwon, so it allowed me to set my feet. I'm not afraid to say I was a set shooter. And then once I had time, and once I let it go, Danny Shade said, "Oh, he's about to shoot it." He's not the fleetest of foot, so I had plenty of time to let it go. And as you know, when you're a shooter, you know when it feels good, and you want it to go all net. You don't want a Kawhi Leonard that bounced on the rim 9 times and go in. Mine went straight panties.
Yep.
It went straight panties. And I looked at Joe Clyde and blew him the kiss of death. And that started from game 5. Everybody always asks me about that story. And me and Joe Clyde, it was fun. We were just going back and forth at each other, blowing kisses. And, of course, I had the last and most important one. And when you hit a shot like that, your confidence level just goes through the roof.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, if you see the video, I don't even remember my teammates jumping on me. I was so caught up in the moment and looking at Joe Clyde. I didn't really reset till I sat on the bench because I was just so caught in the moment. I see Sam and Chucky Bride, everybody jumping on me. And if you see the film, I'm just steady looking at the Phoenix bench. So it was just a great moment. And then I guess we played the MVP, David Robinson, 65-win Spurs team. And boy, oh boy, you talk about a man who was locked in and focused. Number 34, Hakeem Olajuwon, was very upset. If the Spurs could do it again, they would not give out that trophy that round. Because I've never seen a guy so locked in and so focused. And Dream said, "Mario, he has my trophy." And that's all I needed to hear. And you guys saw the rest. You saw what that man did in the biggest of stages against the MVP of the league. He dominated him. He just ain't beat him. He dominated him. And if you see David Robinson on that podium, it seems like a kid who got his candy stolen. You know, he was very humbled by the level Olajuwon played that year.
Yeah.
And that's once we got through that round, you mentioned we got Shaq, we got Petty, we got Nick Anderson, we got Horace Grant, we got Dennis Scott. I mean, just a good young team. And they jumped on us early. But I always go back to the film because it says a lot about the journey. Shaq is like, we go up 20, we're over there celebrating like we won the game. And our side, we're just calm and cool and collective because we've been in those situations before many, many times. So we cut the lead. I think we were down 20 second quarter. We cut it to 11. And then we felt good. And then Kenny Smith got hot the second half, got us back in the game. And poor Nick Anderson, who's a friend of mine, I don't know how a guy misses 4 free throws in a row, but he did. I guess God was on our side. Then Kenny hits the one to tie the game. And then in overtime, you know, it's a tie game. We're going to Clyde on the zipper play. So Clyde beats Nick Anderson. So what happens when you get beat? Shaq comes to help. Shaq changes the shot. What happens? You lead Olajuwon all by himself, crashing the boards. The shot came off perfectly. Right. He didn't even know what he did. If you look at the film, he tapped it in. He looks around. I said, dude, you just won the game for us. I'm the first guy who hugs him. And once we beat them that game, that really took the winds out their sails. They really lost their confidence. And hearing stories from Brian Shaw, who's a friend of mine, he said Shaq was so mad at Nick Anderson after that first game in the locker room, they never really recovered. We really took their heart after that first game. And as you noticed, the second game, we blew them out. And then we took it. We won a close game in game 3 at home, and then we finished them off in 4. So that was a very impressive run. Very proud of that. I'm most special for that ring. And you mentioned, you know, you got guys like Dennis Scott, Penny Hardaway, Sam Cassell, Kenny Smith. And to say a Division II guy was the best shooter, and if people look at my stats, I averaged 17, 4 rebounds, 3 assists. I mean, I wasn't just a filling guy. I was a major part of a championship ball club. And you mentioned, I shot over 60% that series from 3. I mean, I was cooking that final.
Yeah, I mean, 22 in game 4, along with 4 steals. You hit 4 threes in that game. It was, you know, if anybody had said, you know, that's a Division II guy, it would have been, what do you mean it's a Division II guy? It's a guy who could have been Finals MVP. Now, I want to jump ahead a couple of years. You leave Houston, you know, there's the lockout in 98, 99, all that. And around all that uncertainty, you go to San Antonio. And obviously a very different kind of team than the Rockets, but you get your 3rd ring. What kind of parallels were there between the 2 teams you won with in Houston and the one that you won with in San Antonio with guys like Steve Kerr, Tim Duncan, and Greg Popovich was coaching?
Let me give you the analogy. Houston, I played with some thugs. San Antonio, I played with some very nice men. That was the difference. So when I got there, I knew what I had to do. We got off to a bumpy start. It was that lockout year, 99. I had told Avery, you know, Jaren Jackson was starting in front of me. So I told him, give me 2 weeks, and that would be my job. So we got off to a rocky start, and I went on the media had asked me a couple questions, and I told them, I said, in order for us to win a championship, David Robinson and Tim Duncan must be tougher and more aggressive. And knowing how nice those 2 guys were, I took a lot of heat for that, for challenging them. And at the end, I was right. And Coach Popovich pulled me aside when we lifted their trophy and thanked me for that. because I took a lot of heat from the media in San Antonio. I said, who's this guy coming over here and challenging two of the just nicest guys who ever played in this game, who are, to me, are top 50 greatest of all time. Dave and Tim are just elite players. But they needed a swift kick in the butt. And Coach Pop couldn't do it. And I had credibility because I had 2 rings at the time. So they listened. And they responded. I mean, it was fun to see. They responded. You know, I just remember during the course of that season, when the torch was passed from David Robinson to Tim Duncan, I'm glad I was there to be a part of that. As great as David was for that organization, he's like, man, I can't hold this young guy back. I'm going to be his Robin. And I remember we played Utah in a big pivotal game. And Tim Duncan just dominated the mailman, 36-18. And at that time, it was the passing of the torch from 50 to 21. So it was great to be part of that. Great group of guys. I mean, Garnett screaming at Tim Duncan, and Tim Duncan's just smiling at him, getting him 35 and 15. Tim is not that guy. Garnett is just a Mr. Amplify, always hyped up. No, they beat us one time, the Minnesota in that series, but we went on and handled them. I guess it was 3-1 that series. Then going on to play the Laker team. You know, Shaq and Kobe, young Shaq and Kobe.
You talk about duos. That's a pretty good one.
But we swept them. And we closed down the Forum at the same time. We swept them. Then the Forum was shut down officially after that sweep. They went from the Forum to the Staples Center. And then another doozy in the Western Conference Final. If you can see all the players Portland had, J.R. Ryder, Jimmy Jackson, Walt Williams, Arvias Sabonis, Rasheed Wallace, Greg Anthony, Damon Stoudemire, Brian Grant. I mean, these are all first-round players who can play. So that, and Greg Anthony, I don't know if I didn't mention Greg Anthony. He was on that team also. So they were like 9-10 deep. You know, we beat them in a tough game, the first one. Second game, they were kicking our butt. But then, thank God for Sean Elliott got hot. And I don't know if you can call me Peyton Manning or Drew Brees, because I was the one that made the pass on the Memorial Day Miracle to Sean Elliott. And if you see it, they stepped out of bounds. So Stacey Augmon knew where the pass was going. So I had to throw a little extra mustard on the pass. So I did. Stacey went for the steal, missed it. Sean got it. Thank God Sean was 6'8", not 6'5". He would have got his shot blocked. If you would see the close-up how close Rasheed Wallace came to that three-pointer, it may be like this much. And how he came to stepping out of bounds, it was this much. So he got his feet set, made the shot. And once you win an emotional game like that, the team is done. So we went on and swept them too. Then played New York. I mean, me being from New York, growing up 5 minutes from Madison Square Garden, and having to beat my hometown team twice for 2 championships, one with the Rockets and one with the Spurs. And Ewing got hurt, so we knew we were going to handle them. So we beat them 4-1. The one thing I remember about that night is that I did not take my uniform off. I wore my uniform till 9 o'clock the next morning until I got back to my hotel. I'm not telling you what I did, but I had a lot of fun. I had a lot of my friends celebrating with me. And I saw the sun come up with maybe 15 people. And I'm in my uniform, drenched in champagne. Got back to my room in time enough to pack my stuff and catch the bus back to the plane. And I'm the guy that got the game ball, the 99 game ball. So just an amazing, a Division II guy. I'm going to have to write a book one day because I had some journeys. So some good journeys, some interesting ones, some tough ones. But at the end, God is good. And Division II guy with 3 championship rings. I like to see another Division II guy with that kind of resume.
Yeah, it's truly incredible. And then at the end there, as you mentioned, you get Tim Duncan to where he needs to be. And it's kind of almost an analog to what you were saying back in your freshman year of high school when your sister gave you that kick in the butt. It's amazing how those sorts of things can come full circle like that.
Great point. Great point. And I tell everybody that story. It wasn't my brother. It wasn't my dad. It's my Nancy Elie, who like, yo, man up. And then when you hear that from a female, and that changed the course of my basketball career, I said, you know what? I'm not gonna feel like this ever again. And I thank my sister, my big sister Nancy, for that.
So 2005, you've retired from playing, you're coaching in the NBA, and you get a phone call, hey, you're going to be in the AIC Hall of Fame, part of the inaugural class. And then 10 years later, 2015, you get a phone call, hey, we're going to retire your number. What does it mean to you to have those kind of experiences and that acknowledgement of what you've accomplished to have in the Hall of Fame here at AIC and to have your number retired?
Well, I put a lot of work in, man. A lot of hard work. A lot of people don't see being in the parks, skipping church, going to the park in the snow, shooting by myself, taking my dog with me, tying my dog up to the fence in the parks of New York, traveling with my brother, God bless him, to different parks in New York with our 5, not coming off the court from 8 in the morning to 4 in the afternoon. Playing in all the tournaments in New York with 3,000 or 4,000 people in the stands watching a summer league game. Getting chased in different neighborhoods for beating them, and they're ready to whip your butt. So I'm having me and my crew run to the train station, trying to avoid an ass whipping. But that's how it is in Brooklyn. You come in their neighborhood and whoop them, they want to whoop you. So
I was going to say,
you had to have the track shoes on, and we did. So just all those experiences, me being from New York, being in Ireland, being on a subway in Ireland, being the only African-American on the plane, and them not seeing color. I loved Ireland. I loved the people. Being in Portugal, watching ladies walk cows up and down the side of the road. Wow. One street light in the whole town. Teaching the barber how to cut my hair, and I helped them because all the other Americans from different towns would come to my barber because I told them how to cut hair. So that was pretty neat.
That's amazing.
Argentina, being down there, the way they drive down there. I said, if you could drive in Argentina, you can drive anywhere. So I really take from all my experiences, CBA, getting up at 5 in the morning in Albany where it's like 10 below zero, taking a trip to Chicago Midway, then going to these small towns, going to La Crosse, Wisconsin, going to Grand Rapids, Michigan, going to these towns to play in the CBA, which wasn't glamorous, staying at Super 8 motels, getting $10 a day per diem. Me and my buddy Clinton Smith stealing tips off the table because we were broke. So just amazing experiences that made me who I am today. And I thank AIC and Coach Powell big time for that. That's a big part of my character going there, thinking about transferring my sophomore year. But I decided not to. I said, let me finish this out. Because I felt I was good enough. Definitely. Everybody knew I was good enough to play Division I. That was no question. But I had a lot of ups and downs, but AIC, man, I will never forget them. Coach Powell, assistant coach Tim Gilbride, just wonderful people. I was happy to see Coach Powell be in an NBA as a scout for as long as he has been. That's a credit to him. Taking my kids up there just to see where I went to college a couple of years ago, getting my number retired, it was very humbling. But I owe that school a lot, man. And when I get a chance to go, when I have time to go, I always like going to Springfield and visit. It's a different town. I see you got a casino up there now, bringing a little more business to the city. And it was just good, last time I was up there for a Hall of Fame event. So I got to meet with a couple of AIC people. It was great. Got to, go to Hall of Fame and just look at the history of the hoop again. I love how they keep adding to it. So I will be there when Rudy T gets inaugurated. I was upset they couldn't do it, COVID. So I'm hoping they have it this fall because I never attended a Hall of Fame ceremony. I said, I want to attend one with my coach and a good friend of mine, one of the players. Is Tim in the same class as Rudy or not?
I'm not sure, to be honest with you, with everything being so.
Yeah, because I might have think that it's Kobe, Garnett, and Tim. I'm thinking Rudy might be in that class with those guys. I'm not sure. That's a hell of a class. But
I was going to say that I don't even know who the fifth person on the floor would be at that point, but that would be.
That's a hell of a class right there. So
yeah.
I would like to experience that because when I go to All-Star games, I couldn't care less about the games. My favorite part of the weekend is Legends Brunch. Getting to talk to Dominique, Isaiah Thomas, Dr. J, seeing Kareem, seeing Elijah Wan, Drexler, guys I know and play, but I'm still in awe. Magic, seeing all these great players at the luncheon. That Ice Gervin, my first poster, every kid's first poster. Legs crossed, silver balls on the ice, man. I mean, the great Paul Westphal, who I coached with twice, who passed away, who's a Hall of Famer now. I mean, just a lot of special stuff, man. And I'm really excited. I want to go just hang out with the legends. That's what I like to do. And just pick their brain and hear stories, hear some of their stories. I mean, I'm a basketball historian, man. I love old school, love talking about the days before me. So being in that environment with those guys, I feel like a little kid humbled. I'm sitting over here with Sidney Moncrief. I mean, Dominique's over here. I mean, all these Shaq. I mean, Barkley. I mean, and knowing those guys personally is pretty neat. Because every time I see Charles, he's still mad. He's still mad about the kiss of death. So
he's never going to get over.
Why would they keep you in Philly? So Charles is just a good dude, man. So
I want to close it out with this. Given all of your own experiences, what advice do you have for current AIC student athletes, whether they're basketball players or otherwise, as they face their own challenges of college, life in general, this pandemic, everything that's going on? What would you say to them to help them get through it?
Follow your dreams. If you believe deep down inside you want to do something, want to be something, go for it. Go for it. I had a lot of doubts in my journey, but I had good people that just kept keeping me in line and said, go for it. Keep pursuing it. Don't give up on your dreams. So, and the great Odette Elie, who's my mom, who has dementia right now, who barely can remember me, can't speak no English. She was the one when my dad passed away, said, son, chase your dreams. Your dad believed you was going to make it. And listening to my mom, who's the number one rock in my life, who loved me unconditionally, even for the mistakes I made, that woman loved me unconditionally and pushed me. You guys follow your dream and believe it, And the Division II guy, being voted in 1997 one of the top 10 Rockets in the last 30 years. That's amazing, man. I'm up there with Rudy T, Charles Barkley, Elijah Wan, Elvin Hayes, Ralph Sampson, Calvin Murphy. I mean, for people to pick me, I mean, that was just, to me, that's the biggest thing. That beats all the championships. That means people appreciate what you bring to the table. It's not always stats where people get caught up in. It's not always about the stats. It's what you bring to a team, the intangibles. And I tell all these guys, don't be ashamed to be called a role player. Look at Bruce Bowen. He did all right being a role player. I did all right being James Posey. It's all right to be a role a role player, but look at the benefits you get. Posey 2 rings, Bruce 3 rings, me 3 rings. You know, so if you have dreams, my Yellow Jacket alums, follow them to the fullest. Don't give up on them. Believe in yourself. It don't matter if Division I, Division. It don't matter what division you in. No, believe in your abilities and chase your dreams. And I will always be a Yellow Jacket. I'm a Yellow Jacket through and through.
Love it. Mario, thank you so much for coming on. It's a pleasure. Honor to get to chat with you. Incredible insight. Really appreciate it.
Any fellow AIC alum is no problem. I'm glad, Seth. Thank you for having me. I'm glad you can share this story with everybody else. Make sure you please share it with everybody.
Oh, yeah.
Because I'm always grateful to Springfield, Massachusetts. I tell people that all the time. They made me up there, you know. That tough town of Springfield made me who I am today. And I'm so thankful and grateful to the people at AIC. They've been great to me. They took a chance on a Haitian kid, and I'm glad they did. And now his number's hanging in the Raptors. I'm hoping kids can get motivation walking in that gym and seeing my jersey up there. And that's what I want that jersey to do. That it's hope.
Mm-hmm.
There's hope. You can make the league. Right now, if you can play in Division 50. If you can play, the NBA will find you. So if you think you can play in the league or overseas, continue to follow them dreams.
Absolutely right. And as an alum myself, like you said, this place is special. Mario Elie, class of 1985, as we continue NE10 celebrating its 40th anniversary. I want to thank everybody who's watching for tuning into the Yellow Jacket Experience. Keep your eyes peeled. We're going to have more episodes. We continue to get to know Yellow Jacket student athletes, past, present, and future.